everyone. Welcome to this episode of Shirley Talk. I'm Mike Mulrooney, and my little sidekick is not here today. She is more than likely going to be having a baby in the next few days, so she was feeling a little rough this morning, been up all night, so we told her to prop her feet up and get her something to drink and hang out for a little bit and see what happens. So anyway, she'll be back here soon with us, and as we start every show out, I am not a tax accountant. I'm not a attorney. I'm not a doctor. So if you hear me say something today, please get professional advice, because today we're going to talk a little about rental real estate. Before I start, our sponsors, our first sponsor today, Scott Wright and Wright Mechanical, does a fabulous job. So if you've got a home, if you've got rental real estate, if you know somebody that has one of those things and you don't, hopefully all of you have a home, but you never know these days. But please get a hold of Wright Mechanical. They're the best in the business. They'll take care of your furnace, your air conditioner. They do a lot of these new mini split things that might help cool off or warm up a small room someplace where it just doesn't make sense to put a full AC unit, furnace unit in. So anyway, Wright Mechanical, best in the business. They've been supporting us at Shirley's Way for many, many years now. So please get a hold of those folks. They're amazing. But yeah, so a few weeks ago, I posted on my personal page, for you all that follow me, posted something about a rental and the damage that was done to this rental property that we had after the people moved out. And believe it or not, it happens more often these days with the damage and what it costs to actually fix up a property. So I posted something about the property and I said, at least there was no dead body in it this time. And that drove people crazy. So I thought I would give that story a little bit. So many years ago, many years ago, when you grow up, you don't have a lot. At least that's what I grew up in. And I thought, I want to do something one day and try and make a little extra money outside of my job. So I started watching these, I guess it was back in the 80s, maybe late 90s, these infomercials. It was the Carlton Sheets special. I'm sure a lot of you my age probably watched old Carlton Sheets. Well, I used to watch Carlton Sheets at least 2 times a day. He was on all the time, and I just kept thinking, man, that's got to be the way to go, get rental property and create residual income. But, old Carlton teaches the program, but he doesn't really teach you the reality of it. So they don't cover, all he covers is buy a house and rent it out and make all kinds of money. But they don't talk about what happens deep inside the woods when you get these rental properties and you find somebody that just that doesn't care about your property, and they destroy it. And over the years, that's really been the norm. Anytime somebody moves out, it costs so much money to fix it up that it's not worth it. But anyway, one year back, I'm trying to remember when this was. It was many years ago. Many years ago, I came home from work. Yes, I do work. A lot of people don't think I do, but I came home from work and my wife was sitting there and she goes, "What's the address on such and such street?" And I said, 1404. And she said, "Great." I said, "What?" She was sitting there watching the news, which is odd because my wife doesn't watch the news. So she said, "They found a dead body in the basement of the house last night." I said, "Are you kidding me?" I immediately sat down, and a lot of things don't bother me, but I immediately started having like a panic attack. Like, what do you mean a dead body in the basement? So I did what everybody else does. I called my friends that are cops and asking them what I can do about this, because I've never dealt with a dead body. So come to find out, they staked out our house. They had staked it out for a couple weeks, and they were watching the man of the house down the street at the store, had cars lined up out on New Cut Road where he was using a company credit card. Somehow he got a company credit card from the company he works for and was buying people's gas, and he was only charging them half, but he was running up this company credit card of this business. So there was cars lined up out on New Cut Road where they'd pull in, he'd put $40 worth of gas in, and he would charge them $20. He was making cash like crazy. So somebody turned him in. So the cops, instead of arresting him on the spot, they started watching where he lived. And this couple originally, back up for a minute, when I first met them, I wasn't real good at doing background checks. And over the years, I hadn't really had to do background checks. But their story, it was three of them, a girl and a guy that had something wrong with him. And I didn't know what it was, but his name was Jeff. And Jeff apparently had a stroke over the years. And these two claimed that they were his caregivers. So I didn't think much about it. I thought, man, that's pretty cool. These two people have taken this guy in, and I didn't know the relationship, and I still don't know how they knew this guy, Jeff. I don't know if he was a cousin or a brother or a neighbor. I have no idea. But fast forward back to Dennis paying for people's gas and charging it to the company he worked for. I didn't know he was doing this, but anyway, the cops had known he was doing this. So, that's a red flag. So if somebody's willing to do that, they're probably doing other things that they shouldn't do. So the cops staked out the house. They were watching it, and they got a report. They got a report from the neighbors. I guess the neighbors called 311 and said there's a horrible smell coming out of the house next door. So the cops researched a little more, still staked out the house, and about 2 a.m. the night before I started watching the news, they raided the house at 2 o'clock in the morning and found the dead body from the smell. They noticed the smell. They knew what the smell was. If you smell a dead body, you know that smell. So the cops knew what was there. So they raided the house about 2 a.m. and found Jeff dead, rolled up in a rug and put in the basement. And this basement was not a normal it's a cellar basement, outside entrance. So they drug his body into this outside entrance, and Jeff was actually living in the basement. I didn't know this. So the two caregivers had made this person that had a stroke was living in a cellar basement. He had a couch down there and stuff like that. We didn't know that until after we found the body. So I called my cop friends, and they said, yeah, they found everything they needed from the house, and they'll release the house to you in a few days. So, I saw the article in the news on TV the next few days. Come to find out, Dennis had been in jail for 10 years, had been in prison for pedophilia. She, and I don't remember her name, she was a prostitute. So I had a pedophile that had been in prison, just got out of prison, and a prostitute living in the house, because I did no background check. And I don't know that would have shown. Well, the pedophile would. That would have shown up. But her being a prostitute, I probably wouldn't have known that. But found out later that's what she had done. And they had killed the guy that they were supposedly caregivers for his Social Security check. That I don't know that ever worked out, because I think they found Jeff's body before they were actually able to cash one of his Social Security checks. But the neighbors turned on him because of the smell coming out of the house. And this was June in Louisville, Kentucky. And in June in Louisville, Kentucky, it's really, really hot. So the neighbors couldn't figure out, one, what the smell was, and two, why these people were sitting outside all day long smoking cigarettes in the middle of June when it's so hot. Well, basically, they couldn't handle the smell that was running through the house, I guess. I don't know. But luckily, the smell inside the house wasn't so bad. Because they put him in the cellar basement and there was no vents down there. So luckily the dead body smell wasn't rampant through the house. It was mainly just in the basement. But the crazy thing about that, it's not that they murdered somebody and left him in the basement for about 2 weeks. A coroner said that he had been dead for about 2 weeks. So they'd done this, rolled him up in a piece of carpet, put him in the basement, and he's down there for 2 weeks. And they're just going about their day. Probably whatever they do during the day, but they had a dead body in the basement. But the crazy thing about this is I don't even know how people found out. I didn't say anything. This was before social media was a thing, so it's been several years ago. But I would get random texts, and I have no idea how people got my number. I would get random texts from people offering to buy the stuff that the body had been wrapped up in. And they would pay a premium if it had blood on it. They wanted blood on this stuff. So they kept telling me, again, I don't know who these people were. My first response is, who are you? How did you find out my number? How did you know about this? But random crazy people would send me messages. And again, I don't know who they were, wanting to buy the stuff. And we sat the stuff outside in the back alley. We drug it out of the basement. It was horrible. The smell was so bad. And it was horrible. The smell was horrible. But we drug the stuff and put it in the alley. It was gone in an hour. I don't know who took it. The couch, the chairs, and the stuff that they had given Jeff in the basement. Again, this guy had a stroke, was living in a cellar-type basement in this house. But somebody took all the furniture, and it smelled so, so bad. It was horrible, and it had blood on it, and they took it. But how crazy are people in today's world where, one, they would choke somebody and murder them for a Social Security check, but then to have these crazy people send me messages wanting to buy the items. They kept asking me, are you going to list this stuff on eBay? So I started looking on eBay. And there was at the time, there was an actual section of items. You just type in murder items, and they were all over the place. I just couldn't believe that people are willing to buy items from a murder scene. What do you do with that kind of stuff? But I just didn't have it in me to even think about doing that. To me, it was wrong. Not to mention, I was kind of worried about it might be a cop. I don't even know if legally you could do that, but I don't know. It just didn't feel right. So I didn't try to sell any of the items, but it was interesting that they would pay more if it had blood on it. So anyway, yeah, that's my crazy rental story that I kind of led everybody into when I had said, luckily there was no dead body in it. I've got tons of rental property stories over the years and might bring somebody on that's got more stories than me one day. But if you're thinking about the rental business, it's tough. It's not put somebody in there and they pay without no problems every month. There's always a problem. There's always next month. And for the most part over the years, I've had fairly decent success except for the last 5 to 6 years. It's been horrible. It's just amazing how people live. One was a previous person that I worked with, and the bugs that I found in the home when he left was ungodly. So just knowing that person may have sat down at somebody else's desk and knowing that he had a bug-infested home was really eye-opening, because you just never know who you deal with every day that may have bugs or may have something in their home that you might work next to. But, yeah, so anyway, if you're ever interested in rental real estate, you want to get in the game, I'd love to sit down and talk with you about it, or shoot me a message, because it's been an interesting life over the past 20-something years. I've been trying to do this. And, to be honest, I've never really made much money, because in the grand scheme of things, when you do get a few renters that pay rent, somebody else is going to damage a property and cost you $10,000. So it really becomes a wash, and it's... unless you've got the cash to pay for the properties, and if somebody misses a couple months rent, it doesn't affect you. But when you have mortgages on these properties, you make bad decisions because you hope somebody's telling you the truth and is being honest with you and will pay you on time. But in today's world, it's very difficult. And there's some successful landlords out there that are doing very well with it. But in today's world, you have to run a background check. You have to make sure they've got some sort of credit rating. And it sounds kind of an oxymoron to hope somebody's got a credit rating that is wanting to rent a property. Yeah, there's people that just flat don't want to own. It's too much trouble for them. They'd rather pay rent, and they're good people. But I dealt with some interesting people over the years and have decided to sell all the properties that we have and get out of the business. But, yeah, that was my murder story. I've got more, not murder stories, but crazy stories of rental property. And I'll be glad to share them with you one day. But since we're talking about rental property and carpet, and I don't know that they could have gotten the smell out of this rug, but Jim Weeks, Max Care Carpet Cleaning, perfect lead into that sponsors us all the time. So that would have been a challenge. If I'd have had Max Care back then, it'd have been a fun challenge, and I hate to make fun of because the person died, but there's nothing I can do about it. But Max Care Carpet Cleaning for all your carpet and upholstery carpet cleaning needs. They clean upholstery, car seats, and ductwork. So luckily the dead body smell didn't float through the house. It was in a cellar basement. But I would have given Max Care a call to see if they could have got the smell out of the home if that would have been the issue. So anyway, thanks so much for listening today. And since this is a Shirley Talk, if you'd like to help Shirley's Way, please go to shirleysway.org. Become a $10 monthly donor if you're a person, or if you got a small business and would like to become a $100 monthly donor, we'd be glad to have you. So thanks so much, and we'll talk to you next time.